to you at night. You know, and this has happened to a lot of people. It's been happening to them. They don't even understand what it is. And because of cheap movies, like I said, low-budget movies, and all these films, they've been scared of this stuff, and it's been their grandmother or their grandfather, you know, whoever has been trying to contact them to help them with something for years, but they've been so scared because they've been misinformed because of these movies, they're not dealing with it, and they're not progressing in their life. Look, there's things that you can get that they're spiritual baths. Do you understand? Like I have put on the site that you can put, that you could take, that you could put on your body. You could bath with them. Look, if someone tried to even come to you, even through astral projection or any of that stuff, they try to come, they try to see you. It's like they're stepping on 1,000 thorns. They wouldn't even try to come close to you. If they're a person who's negative and is trying to harm you and trying to come against you, and they even send spirits to you, the spirits couldn't do anything to you. So it's easy, it's simple. If something is bothering the sister or something like that, there's simple things that you can get that'll take care of that without going through all these elaborate things. Not saying that those elaborate things won't work. Yeah, sometimes they will work, sometimes they won't. But there's simple answers to this. When you start dealing with some of these real things, it doesn't have to be so complicated. Okay?
Okay, I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In regards to the ancestors, what type of protection does your ancestors afford you? And this question is coming from some information that I have received that says that if you honor your ancestors, you bring them offerings, you put, you set up an altar and you put food down or what have you down for your ancestors, given that they are the ones that are closest to you, they are your first line of protection against any and all things. So my question is, I want to know about, not the validity of that, well, I guess, the validity of that statement, plus what protection do they afford you, and what's the limitation of the protection, if any, that they afford you?
Very advanced, very good question. I like it. Okay, let's deal with it. Look, you want to know something? Look, when you start dealing with the different systems and the knowledge that exists on the continent, they have several different various facets of the knowledge. You have facets that deal with certain spirit beings. You have facets that deal with certain specific elements that exist in nature. You have facets that exist with many different things. The ones with the wind. You deal with the ones with this, the ones with that. You even have facets that only deal specifically with ancestral and nothing else. You have that as well. And let me explain something to you. Do you want to know what type of protection the ancestors can do for you? One, I answer that question in two ways. One, it depends on the type of protection and the type of spiritual things they themselves accumulated when they were living. That's one. Let's deal with that, and then we can deal with some of the other facets. Because I've heard people a lot of times say, "Oh, I just deal with my ancestors," and you know what? You can't do anything to me. They are they've been misinformed. Look, let me tell you something. The reason why people in villages, let's just deal with something that everyone can deal with. Let's just deal with Kemet. Okay, let's just deal with Kemet here. And this is I'm gonna explain my answer through legitimate history, so we can understand. When you look at the history of Kemet, and you look at the history of how those ancestors came to prominence, how does it work? You'll hear the local person on the Discovery Channel say, and Amun started off as a local deity, and he stumbled from a local deity into a national deity, and then from a national deity, right? What is he telling you? He's telling you that Amun was a local and a traditional ancestor or being that existed in certain provinces, in a certain province. And that ancestor gained so much popularity that he went from one area to the other area. Before you know it, it became known as a national thing. So when you deal with the ancestral aspect of what I'm trying to explain here, you realize that because this one specific individual reached a certain level, spiritually, when people dealt with him on that level, his abilities expanded far. So let's deal with this. If you, brother, you take your time to travel, you take your time to study the knowledge, you take your time to search and to find your ancestral birthrights that exist in many various places across this planet. Do you understand that? And you come to a ripe old age where you have accumulated all of these tools and all of this wealth and all of this inheritance. When you no longer physically exist, your capabilities versus the capabilities of Joe Blow, who kicked rocks his whole life, are different. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's right. As above, so below, as they say.
So that's just one level. But let's not get it mistaken. Even though Joe Blow, who kicked rocks his whole life, even though he exists, he may not be as spiritually advanced. That doesn't mean that he also can't provide you certain aspects of protection. It's just that I would say that his abilities may not have the same potency as the abilities of an ancestor that took the time to do what he needed to do and was the breadwinner for that specific bloodline. So, because that ancestor has the same blood as you, yes, that ancestor can deal with you. They kick rocks their whole life, okay, big deal. But because they exist both in the spiritual planes and they can also exist physically in you, there's a lot they can do for you. But if you're walking around with an ancestor or ancestors that may not be as powerful as, say, for instance, one of the ancestors that you have that really dealt with it, the level of protection that you have just dealing with that ancestors may be limited. That's why we know that, yes, your ancestors are not just your physical bloodline ancestors. When you deal with indigenous knowledge, you know that the rock is also your ancestor. The tree is also your ancestor. The water is also your ancestor. Why? Why is the rock? Why is the tree? Why is all these things your ancestors? Because those things exist in you, and I'm explain what I mean by that, and then we'll get on another subject really quick. Look, people think they're so separate from their environment. Look, I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. We have a lot of trees here. We have a problem with pollen when it comes to those seasons. The pollen gets so thick here, it puts a green film on everything. There's not a place you can't go. There's like a green film from everywhere because all the trees are pollinating, and the film gets everywhere. The people are walking around not really paying attention, and they don't realize. Look, let's deal with science here. Look, if you smell a scent, the reason why you smell it is because a particle of that one thing is actually traveling up your nose and is hitting the cavity, and you're actually able to deal with the chemicals and so forth, and your mind registers that as a smell. That's why you smell it. You don't smell it because it's far, far away from you, and you just catch a whiff. You smell it because those particles are actually entering your body. So let's deal with this. How are the trees your ancestors? We talked about this before, and this is just on a mundane level. We're not going to get into the super deep level here. Let's just deal basic level here. Basic level, we're dealing with colonization here. Look, if your ancestors existed in a specific area, do you understand that? And they exist in an area where the trees have been pollinating. If these trees are pollinating and there's pollen everywhere, you don't think that pollen has been ingested by them? You don't think that those organisms, so forth, haven't integrated into their body, into their beings? Come on. You are a product of you also are a product of your environment. You breathe, you ingest these things in. You breathe in and out gases every single day, chemicals and so forth from your environment. They integrate in you. They live in you. Different minds and mentalities, all these things. So it's not just your physical bloodline, like it's not just your physical flesh and blood people that are just your ancestors. It's on the mundane level of what I'm